Aye. Be the plume goon, should start down, need permission, now I stay real with it. Lay one foundation, always gon' build, bro, I been built with it. Your homeboy check the cash out, small contracts with a cash out. Everybody want smoke till I turn the dare, show you where the house at. Spun the block, turns out I been black rock.
What's going on? It's the Underdog Research Channel. I'm happy to be here. We have part 2 of the Plume Report, episode 2. I talked about it yesterday, but I want to make sure that I get you the full report. Now, this is a members-only report, but I'm sharing it with you so you can see the power and you can start utilizing information to put yourself in a position to win. Now, here's the QR codes. If you're not a member, scan the QR code. On the left-hand side, you get the Plume Report. This is a weekly intelligence report. No one's doing this. All the announcements, all the activity, and the sentiment about Plume, where it's headed, is put in one spot. And on the right-hand side is the Plume Report real-world assets. I'm talking about we're following the money, the capital. Where is the money going? Who's building? It's like a technical analysis, but only you're seeing real companies and how they're investing globally and comparing it to Plume. Now, I will advise you of one thing. This information is alpha. You want to put it on a big screen. You don't want to take these visuals for granted. Put it on a laptop, big screen, view this so you can see it, because the information you're going to get here, no one else is providing you all in one place. So let's make sure you do that. So let's get into it. What are we covering? We covered part 1 of episode 2 of the Plume Report. And today, this is part 2 of episode 2 of the Plume Report. You can scan a QR code to get those reports if you want to participate and put yourself in that position to win. But where did we leave off yesterday and where are we headed now? So yesterday, I told you about an announcement. Let's talk about that announcement. Neo Finance Ecosystem Map. Of the 100 plus projects building the new financial system, Plume was mentioned on this. So let's take a look at this. Let's see what we're looking at here. Neo Finance is real assets moving like software, natively composable. Plume is where they run, with Nest Credit as the flagship use case. Now, this was Plume reposting the roll-up, and the roll-up is the name of this X account. The roll-up on January 16th made a post. Plume reposted, but why? Well, what did they repost? The Neo Finance Market Map, an ecosystem map of 100 plus projects. Now, for you, you may say, what is important about that? That's the problem with the internet now. Too much information. There was a time we didn't have enough. Then we got on the web. Now it's too much. You don't know what to pay attention to. You don't know what to look out for. That was a huge announcement. I'm going to break down the things I saw in this. Now, there's 100 plus projects in this Neo Finance report, but what is this? The market map of Neo Finance? I never heard that before. You probably never heard that before. So I had to do the research, and that's why I'm bringing it to you on the Plume Report so you can be aware of what they're talking about. But I'm going to break it down to you today. Let's talk about it. Neo is not an acronym. What does Neo mean? So if you look up the word Neo, the Greek name for Neo means new or fresh. And this Neo map that was reposted by Plume, the reference here is not a company. The Neo map is representing the new financial system that is being built, that is already here, and where it's going. So the Neo Finance market map, to save you some time, you can't buy a token in it. This is showing you what are the players based on this particular project or portfolio, whatever you want to call them, a media group called the roll-up. Now, I want to bring up something particularly because you may not knew this before. So let me bring up something very interesting. This particular map, the Neo Finance Market Map, was released on January 16th of 2026. The roll up is the person or company or group of people who did it. That's their X account. It had 587,800 views. Now, it's tagging in this securitize. Now, why is that important? Because if you see this, you might get distracted by all the 100 companies because you don't know what that means. Who's building? Why are they talking about these 100 companies on this map? But Securitize is connected to BlackRock. Now, they only tagged them in it, but I think it's important to understand Securitize, I've talked about before on the Connected series. Securitize is I say individual, but it's really a company that is able to connect to BlackRock Build and other securitized products, and they're the biggest in the space. Lots of money, institutional investors have products through Securitize. Now, I talked about the CEO in my previous conversations, but I want you to get that connection because, again, information without application is not logic, it's not knowledge, it's useless. You got to apply it to the thing. So I thought since I'm going to be finishing a Plume report, and since Plume brought this up, I wanted you to see the significance of what Neo Finance Market Map actually is. I want you to know where it came from. I want you to know why they chose these products, and I want to apply it to the Plume network to see the significance in them reposting this map. Now, you saw there was 587,000 individuals who looked and liked that post, and I want you to see the roll-up. This is their X page. Now, I'm taking the time to show you that they only have 54,600 followers. Now, why is this important? What am I showing you here? This is just starting, and I'm taking a lot of time. So you know it must be important if I'm taking this much time to explain this map. Why is it important? Because I want you to notice who they're followed by. Now, I took the followers that I knew and I connected them on the roll-up. And in this particular X account called the roll-up, who produced the map called the Neo map, I want to start at the bottom to one particular one called persistence. Now, in my series I just finished called the SwiftCoin mini series, I talked about persistence. But why did I talk about persistence? Well, I'm going to remind you of why I talked about persistence. Because persistence was connected to one particular thing. And I'm going to share just a little bit of you because this is for the members. I want you to be aware of this. I told you about a connection that is here from Switzerland to Bermuda. And I told you that Coinbase recently on January 27, 2026, they connected in partnership with Circle, that's USDC, a stablecoin, and also the country of Bermuda. Coinbase is in the United States, the biggest exchange there is, and they have a partnership. We're not talking about just a small partnership with the Bermuda Monetary Authority, our version of the SEC. Why? And I told you this as well, that I found a connection back in October of 2015. Now, that connection I showed you was a connection between Bermuda, Switzerland, and the United States. Money flowing. Now, we've all heard of Swiss banks. This is not new. We all grew up knowing that people with a lot of money would invest in the Swiss banks. Some of us know that people with a lot of money invest in Bermuda banks as well. Why were people, and still today, investing in these offshore banks? Some doing it to protect their assets because the FDIC only covers up to 100,000. The Swiss banks would cover more. Some did it for nefarious reasons because they're trying to hide their money. People choose different reasons. But one thing is the common consensus that we all know is that money is in Switzerland and money is in Bermuda. Now, it's not a coincidence that I told you that in October the 13th, 2025. You become a member and scan that QR code or press join in the description. You will be able to see the series. It's 10 episodes. I'll walk you through it. Now, it's about a project called SwiftCoin, but the thing about money is as we travel down the path to trace it and find it, we find its friends. We find who they talk to. We find who money waves to. We find where money lays down. What I was chasing here is the rails before money flows. Why do you want to wait until it's there? Why do you want to wait until Bitcoin is at 165,000? Then you try to buy a Bitcoin. You're not going to be able to buy it. You wish you was the person who bought it at 50 cents. If you want to get there early, you can't just wait till some content creator hypes it to you. You have to take the time to do the research. That's what I'm doing for you. I'm providing you a product. They call that alpha. You know what alpha really means? Alpha means that you obtain information or return in your investment above the expected return. So when you hear these stock market terms where people saying, hey, I got alpha from a hedge fund, what those companies are saying is that they was at a hedge fund who took their money and instead of getting a return on investment expected like a ROI, return of investment of 10%, for example, which is routine, they got a 25%. Anything above the expected return is called alpha. And that's what these big companies are looking for. So I'm trying to give you alpha. I'm trying to make you think like an institutional investor and not a retail investor who's looking at coin prices going up and down. Why is Bermuda and Switzerland important? And why is that related to the fact that as I looked at this new conversation that Plume Network brought up, and we bring it up right here again, and we see that Plume Network reposted this comment on January 16th about the neo finance market. And then we connect that to the person, the source that posted it. I found the company Persistence, the same company that I've talked to you about in my series that is connected to the Switzerland banks and institutions, the equivalent of the SEC in the United States. Persistence creates stable coins for a company that is in that area called Tavis Digital, which is in Switzerland. Now, they create this product and they're connected to money rails in the United States, out of California, and also in Singapore, and also in India. Why? Because if we can locate a company that does a product for multiple other companies, and the money flows from India, and the money flows from Switzerland, and the money flows from Bermuda, and the money flows to the United States, and you happen to recognize that other companies are building products off of that, you might want to pay attention. Or you can go Google, when is the next project going to go 10x rocket ship? If that is what you want, that's what you'll get. Hype. I want to show you something here, though. As we look at the people that are following the roll-up who produce this thing, this report that I've identified as the Neo Finance Market Map, which we're about to get into, I want you to notice who else were following the roll-up, who produced this report. Eigenlayer, Caldera, also Plume, the CEO of Plume and another co-founder. These are some of the individuals who are following the roll-up, who produced this report. That's important. Pay attention. Let's get into this report. So the Neo Finance Mark. Now, this is a market map. This is not a company. This is a market map of over 100 plus players. And they broke it down in different categories. I want you to take a look at the categories they're broken down to. Let's look at this. Here we have stablecoin issuers, stablecoin builders. See that red mark at the far left? That's Plume Network. We got payment infrastructure, tokenization platforms, tokenized asset issuers. Going to the far right, we got blockchains, we got lending, we got insurance, we got wallet infrastructure, we got wallets, we got fintech, we got neobanks, we got oracles. Now, you heard this. This is the categories within this market map. So in those categories, they selected this company, this project called the Roll-Up. The trending the ones of these blockchains that are going to do the best in their opinion. I'm going to use someone else's work today because I'm a researcher. So as a researcher, we go to sources, and you should be able to provide the sources to the individuals who are watching. That's why I told you, look at these visuals, and you should give credit to where you obtain a source, because that's what you should do. We've gotten away from that, but I wanted to give credit to a particular person. As I did my research, I pulled this video and referenced this individual named Chuck Akpalungo. Now, Chuck, he did a video for Neo Finance about the bull run. The roll-up is who interviewed them. So again, to show the connection, I want to make sure you understand, we got the roll-up, which is this company right here. And I keep saying company, it's an individual. I don't know what we're going to call them. We're going to call them a group of people. Keep saying company. Maybe they're a company. I'll look into that. But it's a group of people who talk about blockchain technology and other technologies who created the Neo market map, the Neo finance market map. Now, Chuck was interviewed, and Chuck is in the DeFi space. Apparently, he's well known. And I looked at some of his work. I liked what he said, and I want to share what he said. It's 90 seconds. Do you have 90 seconds? I'm going to share what Chuck said so I can then break down what I saw in this Neo map. Now, again, you're like, Underdog, I don't understand. I thought you were talking about the Plume. If Plume posted it on January 16th, it received 16,600 views. And they said Neo Finance is real assets moving like software, natively composable. Plume is where they run with Nest Credit as the flagship use case. I have to think that it must be important, especially since there is 587,000 people, almost 1 million people who also thought this was important. Sometimes we don't know what's important because there's too much information. So I broke that down, took the research into it. But now I'm about to play 90 seconds of Chuck. And this is something you can look up. And this happened January 16th, 2026, a interview. So here's your 90 seconds of Chuck. I want y'all to pay attention to this. This is what he said.
Chuck, the man, the myth. Some have called him the LinkedIn warrior, the fintech financier, and the master of terminology. Sir, good to have you, man.
It's awesome to be here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Chuck, I think you saw we released the Neo Finance market map. And as you know, this is a thesis that we're extremely excited about. We believe that the legacy financial system requires an upgrade. And frankly, crypto native infrastructure slop has been getting too much VC dollars and has been persistent for too long. We believe this deserves an upgrade as well. And they don't just need an upgrade. We actually believe that they're going to upgrade to the same point. And that is this convergence point. It's neobank, it's fintech 2.0, and this is what we're calling Neo Finance. And so, Chuck, I mean, maybe you could just give us your first reaction to the thesis, because we value your opinion. We want to hear from knowledgeable people in the space like you on whether or not we're thinking about this the right way. So, first impressions on Neo Finance.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's absolutely right. It's what a lot of us have been waiting for. And like no qualms about, degen, and we've all done it. We trade, we have fun. But when you think about the evolution of blockchain and what it can do, you're thinking about replatforming the financial system. And the convergence of TradFi and DeFi is this constant battle. And we're making a ton of progress. 2025 was a kind of an excellent year for that. Obviously, a lot of that has to do with regulation, and then certain big signals with acquisitions. But the infrastructure has been built out, and folks have continued to build it out over the last several years. And so with infra on-off ramps, with liquidity, as that's all coming together, you're starting to get really, really good consumer applications and business and infra. And so, I think it's bang on. And we're just at the beginning of what will be like a multi-year evolution of finance. So it's exciting to see.
Yeah, man. And we just had Sid on from Maple, and Rob and I have just continued to understand that this specific category is a set of highly capitalized teams as well as skilled operators at the helm, which is a core difference from some of the let's say, earlier crypto teams that we've seen, as well as a core difference from traditional just legacy finance team. It's the combination of expertise between the fintech, which you possess, and the Web3 space that is really kind of creating this value in this architecture. We want to really take this time to educate and learn ourselves from you as well as our audience. And I think the best way to kind of start is just to think about this from an investor point of view. Chuck, we've been thinking a lot about how value is going to be created in this category. Where does value accrue is often the question that investors want to know. And so when we think about this category at large, to put it simply, Chuck, who's making the most amount of money? Where's the best business models? Who's doing it well? And how are you thinking about the actual on-chain business models and off-chain business models of this category? Let's start here broad, and then let's get into some of the specifics on the market map.
All right. So, Chuck, what did he say? What were they talking about? The roll-ups talking about who is making the most amount of money. This new financial system, these new projects, these new teams, they scoured with their experts. They looked through the market and they picked out over 100 plus projects who are promising, who are already building, who are putting people in a position to win before they even realize it. And why was that important? Because obviously Plume Network appeared on this. Plume Network appeared on this conversation. The conversation went into RWAs. You can find that full conversation online as well, like I did, but I went further. Before I went into that, I'd like to silo myself because I don't like other people's opinions until I have done the research, because I don't want the bias. You see, if I talk to 20 people and I get 20 different opinions, that will bias me. So I do my research independently. After I do my research, I sit down and I dive deeper specifically into that project and token or whatever thing I'm talking about, the topic. Well, I want to bring to your attention some things that I saw in this Neo Market Finance report. Let's talk about it. So remember, Neo again means new, and this conversation about the Neo Finance Market Map is about the new financial market. What's to come? What's here now? Who can make the most money? And again, this particular project, Plume, which I'm trying to talk to you about for the last several months, is on this market map of the thousands of cryptocurrencies. But let's talk about what I found. So again, I want to show you under stablecoins. Plume appeared right here under stablecoin builders, and they were circled. But I saw other people while we went down this journey. So let's bring up some of the other people. And I say people, I'm country. That means I'm talking about companies too. People can mean companies. People can mean also individuals. Just like in the South, if I say Coke, that represents Pepsi, grape, whatever. I say I want a Coke, it means everything. So I want to talk about the companies, AKA people, who are right now being noted in this map that I think you should pay attention to and why they're there. So in the stablecoin category, Neo Finance Market Map, this is what we find. Stablecoin issuers, I want to bring up these 7. Stablecoin issuers, World Liberty Financial, Tether, Ripple, Plume, Jupiter, PayPal, Western Union. Now, stablecoin issuers versus stablecoin builders. Now, Underdog brought that up to you right now. Why am I bringing this up to you? So if you're watching this and you're trying to understand the purpose, this is about the overall crypto market and also the integration between traditional finance and crypto market. So I'm asking you this question. Did you know that Ripple was listed as a stablecoin issuer? Do you have XRP? Are they talking about XRP? No, they can't be talking about XRP. So why does Ripple fall under the category with Tether and World Liberty Finance? Now, World Liberty Finance has the USD1 coin. People recognize World Liberty Finance because that's the Trump family associated with the World Liberty Finance. They have a stable coin. We know about it, USD1. Tether, we know about that stable coin. We use it, USDT. Ripple is in that category. I didn't make this up. Can we explain why Ripple is listed there? What is their stablecoin? Maybe we should look into that. Maybe you want to hold that. Maybe we need to see what rails are being laid. I thought that's important because in the same category, look under stablecoin builders, Plume appears. Now, I want to talk about that. Plume has the PUSD. That is their stablecoin. Plume stablecoin is called PUSD. You can use this in a product they called Nest, and you can invest this and you can get a yield back, and it connects to a company called Securitize, which I told you before that partnership happened. Because of this strategy I use, I was able to identify that Plume would have a partnership with Securitize months before they ever announced it. They also have a connection with BlackRock Build. I was able to connect to BlackRock Build. There's also an ongoing consideration with Grayscale. If that goes to fruition, then there'll be another way that Plume is connecting to big companies. But I want you to not ignore the other two things that you see here in front of you. Two things I want to show you is one, stablecoin issuers. We have Ripple that appears under a stablecoin issuer. That's the crypto issue of a stablecoin. But number two, stablecoin builders, PayPal, Western Union, and Jupiter. Now, maybe you didn't know that until right now in this moment. Maybe you've heard of Western Union. Maybe you've heard of PayPal. But maybe you just now finding out that they're a stablecoin builders. Now, that is going to be interesting because that means they're going to be able to have stablecoins on their platform, or they issue one out, a Western Union stablecoin. Looks like Underdog might need to go in depth and research that. And Plume right there is connected to now Western Union, PayPal, Jupiter, and Plume all together in the same space, stablecoin builders, and all together with connections to Tether, World Liberty Finance, and Ripple. Once again, you heard it here first. I said months ago that there was going to be a connection between Plume and World Liberty Finance. And sure enough, that's what happened. I said months ago that there will be a collaboration between Plume and Tether. And sure enough, that happened. And now I said months ago that there should be a collaboration between XRP and Plume, because if XRP is going to be dominant in the banking space with institutions, they need to be with the number one dominating agent transfer SEC approved project, which is Plume. So there is a likelihood that in the future, you're going to see XRP, aka Ripple, connected to Plume as partners. And you're going to say, I wish I had got into Plume under 2 cents, but I waited until I saw hype. And now I'm paying XRP prices for Plume. That's going to be on you. But I want you to pay attention to that. PayPal, Jupiter. I did put a lot of talk in that. I talked about Jupiter a long time ago. It's coming back, resurfacing, and it's coming back with a storm. I might have to start covering Jupiter. Not sure yet because there's a lot of stuff to cover, but I'm definitely going to look into Western Union and PayPal, and you should too, because we see it on this market map. And apparently 587,800 people look at this and they thought that this has some significance. It has some clout. So if it has some clout, you might want to pay attention to it. So what else did we find out here as we search through this? This is still part of the Plume Report, nothing different. If you want this type of alpha, press the QR code. I said press it, you know, you got to scan it, but go to join in the description, become a member, get this information, get this alpha. Otherwise, do the free thing. Go out there and just have somebody hype to you, put your rocket ship and see how you do. That's what people like to do. But I like to be in a position to win, so I hope you do too. But let's go to the next part. Neo Finance markup. Now, I keep saying markup. I mean to say market map, so please excuse my misstatement. So here we go. Tokenized asset issuers. Now, this is still coming from this market map. I'm just breaking it down to ones that stood out to me. So there was a lot of good ones here, but I want to bring this up here. So let's make sure I don't skip over anything. Tokenized asset issuers, BlackRock, tokenized assets. You know who BlackRock is. Franklin and Templeton, Wisdom Tree, Grayscale, Securitize. Now you see Plume right there at the bottom. BlackRock is a $14 trillion company. Franklin Templeton, we have billions to upward trillions in money. Wisdom Tree, same thing. Grayscale, multiple billions. Securitize, up to the trillions. Billions, high billions to the trillions. Securitize has a special relationship with BlackRock, Franklin Templeton. Wisdom Tree has a special relationship as well. And Grayscale. Barry Silbert, this is in my Connected series. If you know that name, he is over Digital Currency Group, a crypto billionaire who was the earliest investor into the market and a lot of behind the scenes things. Grayscale is a subsidiary of Digital Currency Group. Why does that matter? Because each of these big players I just told you all have a partnership relationship with Plume Network. That means money will flow from them into Plume Network, and not just in RWAs. We're talking about ETFs. We're talking about insurance credits. We're talking about all these things that through the Nest protocol. The Nest protocol, which is something I've also talked to you about, allows you as a retail investor to get yield from institutional investors. That these big players you're seeing here. As a retail investor, I want you to understand the significance of this money-making aspect. If you try to open a stock account and become a day trader right now in this United States of America, it will cost you $25,000 that must be maintained at all times and a trader's account. That's why a lot of people do crypto. Yes, it's volatile, but if you're not doing day trading, why are you trying to catch every single thing that goes up and down daily? Most people are hodlers. Most people are trying to think of the long term. Others are gamblers. All they think about is crypto and it going up. I digress. Let's talk about what this. Crypto is lucrative because we like the volatility of it. In order to do the same thing that you do on crypto, trade at any time you want to, you have to have a account that holds 25,000. Go to any of these Robinhoods and buy Walmart stock at 8 o'clock in the morning, and then let Walmart stock go up a quarter. That'd be amazing, right? And then you sell it again at 1 o'clock p.m. And then you attempt and buy it again as the price goes down after 1 p.m. You do that twice to 3 times, you're going to get a nasty gram from Robinhood says you have just did day trading. This is your warning. You must have $25,000 in an account. If you fail to follow these provisions, you will be suspended and your account will be removed. Money has never had access to those without. Money has always been difficult for you to obtain. But we continue to tell ourselves that we're just like everyone else. You're not invited to the party because you need 25K to even make a quarter on a trade. That's why people like crypto. If you do the right things, you can make a good living off of this if you have the patience. If you want quick money, then you go ahead and throw your money at it. That's crypto gambling. I don't participate in that. What I want you to notice, though, is are you crypto gambling when I just showed you that Plume Network, the whole concept of this conversation today is the Plume Network report, the series is shown on this map in the tokenized asset issuers, these big 5 you see right here. That's only 5 of the many that I picked out. Plume is connected to each and every one. Can you say that about other projects you looked at? Can you say that even about most companies who have stock? There is something special about Plume Network, and you need to have eyes to see it. But you also need to pay attention to the information that I'm laying out here for you because I make it easy for you to obtain that knowledge. Next, let's talk about this. We have this part that I think you should know. Neo Finance, Market Map, Tokenization Platforms. This is what I think you should look at. Ondo, Canton, Nest, Securitize, Ripple, Galaxy Digital. Now, I know you're starting to see a pattern. Ding, ding, ding. Raise your hand. Wink, wink. Do you see something that's already coming up? See, some of you might be new. Some of you might be old. Some of you might be moderate in your time in crypto. But we can all recognize patterns since we was little children. Ondo, real world assets. Canton, tokenization, real world assets. Nest is connected to Plume. Securitize, I just talked about them. They came up again. Here comes Ripple again. And Galaxy Digital. They're also found often as backers to these same companies. Why do we see Plume again? Connected to Ondo. Plume and Ondo have a partnership. Plume and Canton. Plume and Nest. Plume and Securitize. And there goes Ripple again. Now, this conversation is not about Ripple. I could make a whole conversation about Ripple if I so chose to, but my thing is, I don't want to have you so focused on the tree, you don't step back to see the forest, nor do I want to have you so focused on the forest that you don't see the tree. I know it's an ambiguous thing that I'm saying here, but the point of the matter is you have to do both. You have to recognize the patterns. You also got to recognize the connections. Tokenized platforms, tokenization platforms, and now we see yet again Securitize, big player, and Ripple in the same category. Why did Neo Finance Market Map do this? And why is Plume yet again connected to all these projects? I wonder if there's a reason. There's something special about Plume. But you don't believe me. Let me share this with you again. As we look at the Neo Finance Market Map, I find Fireblocks, wallet infrastructure. Don't know who Fireblocks is, I'm sure. You know who's connected to it? You're right. Plume announced a few weeks ago that they are connected in a partnership with Fireblocks. This particular technology is over wallet infrastructure. So maybe we should study Fireblocks. Maybe we should look at Securitize. We've done that. Notice that all the things I'm going over, even though if you look at the market map and we look at the big market map and we look under this tokenization asset issuers and we look at under the specifically wallet infrastructure. Let me show you that right here. Wallet infrastructure. Take a look at it. If you can see it, I told you to put this on big screen. Wallet infrastructure, they have about four that they chose of the thousands of wallets infrastructure projects. They chose 4. And of those 4, they chose one that Plume yet again is partnered with. Is it just a coincidence, you think? I think not. In criminal investigations and civil investigations, they call that a clue. Let's catch that clue. So let's keep going. Let's see what else we find. So now let's go a little bit deeper. Again, all of this is the part of the Plume Report. You thought I was going to get on here and tell you what Chris Yin, the co-founder, said, or Teddy said, who is also a co-founder. No, that's not the purpose of the Plume Report. The purpose of Plume Report is give you a non-biased, focused, research-based evaluation and analysis of information that is confirmed. This is not speculative. This is not guessing. This is confirmed information. And now that we see it, we can't just use the data. We have to evaluate it based on our application of the data so it's usable. If you're ever in the intelligence field, they'll tell you that data, raw data, without analysis is useless. Raw data must be refined, must be analyzed, must be evaluated, and then it must be placed in a manner in which you can provide it to the audience who reviews it so they can understand the application of that data to the problem set. There's no different here. We have Plume Network is the conversation. They're the number one in real world assets. This feels like crypto, but it's not quite crypto. First problem that most people have, they don't know the value of it because they don't know what a real world asset is. Second problem that most people have, they don't know the value in it because it's newer to the market. Third problem most people have, they won't do the research to learn about it. Fourth problem most people have, they will go off the hype other people hear. Fifth problem most people have, they don't want to do the research. Sixth problem most people have, they only go with the things that people think are popular. Seventh problem people have, the social media platforms only give you content creators who are getting likes and shares. So the more popular the content creator provides information to you, the more confirmation bias they give you, the more lies they give you in order to get you to say like and love. You press that button, it comes in front of you. You get marketed to. And one psychological fact that people don't realize, the more repetition that people give you, the more you start to believe the repetition. We're almost doomed, folks. So what I'm trying to do here is give you visuals, data, application, all together. And I never tell you to buy one thing. I can't even do that because I'm not a financial advisor. What I challenge you to do is to look at the things that I bring up to you, like I'm about to bring this up to you right now, and do the thing that most people won't do. If you ask questions, that advances your knowledge. But if you question the answers, that creates discovery. Question everything. And that makes you research everything and come up to your own conclusions. I'm not trying to tell you to get anything. What I'm trying to share with you is that we cannot ignore the patterns that we see in front of us. The Plume Report is to help you to recognize the patterns. So let's keep going with the patterns. So we see here, right here, Neo Finance Market Map. I picked out these particular ones from that. World App, OKX, Base, MetaMask. Why did I bring these up? At this particular point, I don't know because I haven't looked yet. I haven't researched this yet. So I would never give you information I haven't researched into if there's a connection between Plume and World App. However, I do know that at the beginning of 2025, announced to you in 2024, around or about December, I stated I will be talking about zero knowledge proof technologies. And I provided you a list of those technologies. One of those technologies was World App. This is a biometric application connected to crypto, and it helps for privacy and security. Now, this biometric scans the irises, and this biometrics does a lot of other things to verify identity on the blockchain. Some people who don't like that aspect of having that biometrics don't understand it. So the first thing they do is attack it. But this is encrypted in a way that it is not so far, has more security than other things. But it's still a product. Now, this has a coin on Coinbase. You can buy this particular project. I haven't focused so much on it as I didn't want you to be focused on this app. I wanted you to be focused on zero knowledge technologies, which Plume also has. World App also has its own version. But why is this important for the Plume Network Report? Because it appears here and it shows you this OKX base, which is connected to Coinbase because they created it in MetaMask. Now, Plume has real world assets. Plume, earlier we saw, was connected to wallet infrastructures. Now, we saw this right here with the Neo Finance wallet infrastructure Fireblocks. I wonder if there's going to be a connection between the wallet infrastructure Fireblocks and these apps, as well as Plume and these particular apps. Plume is already on Coinbase, but I want you to think, if we're already seeing that Plume is partnership with one partner that's in the wallet infrastructure, is there a potential connection here as well? And if so, MetaMask is a huge wallet that a lot of people use. We take it for granted, but hard wallets and also hot wallets have to have security too, folks. And real world assets will transfer through these wallets, will be held on these wallets. So we might want to think, is there a potential connection here that we need to explore? I think yes. I think hardware wallets is something I brought up to you before, and hot wallets. I think this is an area that not a lot of people are paying attention to. And I want to bring that up because it came up on this conversation. Now, let's talk about the next part of this NEO map. And again, just in case, I want to go back because as we finish up this, I want to make sure you understand why I'm going through this so definitively and strategically, step by step in every section, because the reason I think it's important is because this right here, because Plume Network said it. Again, I would not be talking about this today. It would not come up on the Plume Network unless Plume had brought it up. Why did they post it? Didn't get a lot of conversation on Plume Network, 16,600 people. But on January 16th, they reposted this and they said, Neo Finance, new finance, we learned that means is real assets moving like software, natively composable. Plume is where they run. Now, they're using a metaphor because I don't see these projects picking up legs and having human-like characteristics, but there's power in words. These are the 100+ best projects that this particular project talks about. Almost 1 million people like this post. They're connected and they tagged Securitize and other big players. They're mapping who will make money. They told you that in the 30 seconds I showed you, Chuck, and the 90-second overall video I showed you with Chuck talking about it. They mapped who would make the most money. And then Plume is telling you, Plume is where these individuals in this network are running to. And why? Because Nest credit as the flagship use case. So that brings us back to what I told you last year. Nest is a product, currently has 7 products within the Nest portfolio. Nest is created by Plume Network. What is Nest? Nest gives 7 products. They have different strategies in order for you to get yield. What is yield? Yield is taking something of value like the dollar. You invest it into something else of value like ETFs. Instead of holding a cryptocurrency, instead of holding an ETF, if they perform well and they group all of those type of things, let's say you have an ETF and let's say it has Solana ETF, Bitcoin ETF, Ethereum ETFs. These are separate ETFs. And let's say you use one of the Nest vaults for ETFs. And let's say you take your Plume token. And let's say you have $1,000. I'm making this easy for you. You take it, you transfer it in Plume's network already set up. You convert it by pressing a button to convert it to PUSD, Plume stablecoin. Now you keep that $1,000 of value. It's stable. It's backed by, right, the US dollar, whatever that might mean to you. So it's pegged by that. Then they take your money and they say you have invested into Nest Vault 1 because you chose of the 7. And Nest Vault 1 has ETFs. You don't need to know what ETFs mean right now. Just understand that they tell you you have an agreement. We'll give you a certain yield. We'll give you, if you invest into this vault, we believe that you'll get a return of investment, ROI, between 5 and 10%. Now, for some of you, you might say, you know what, that's much better than my bank. I'd rather have 10% on my dollar. For every dollar I spend, you'll give me a dime potentially? Yes. And the lowest, you guarantee at least 5%. You know what? Let me go ahead and invest my $1,000 because at the end of it, I'll get 10 cents for every dollar. So I'll make about what, $100. If I do it for how long you have to invest it for? It's 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. What is that APR? What is that return on investment? Whatever it is. So you invest your $1,000 into this ETF, a part of the 7 Nest vaults, and then you get a return and you invest in ETF vault. So if the ETFs do well in that time period and you invested, you just made money. At the end of it, what they do, they'll give you certain tokens. They could pay you out in Plume. They can pay you out in other stable coins. And then you can take that payout and you can loop it into something else. So you don't lose your investment. You got the money you invested in a stable coin. You can convert it right back to USD. And then you got the money you made on top of it. This is a strategy. Some strategies have more risk because they're different portfolios. Some have less risk. So when Plume is telling us here, as we see, that Plume is where these 100 plus projects run to with Nest Credit as the flagship use case, Plume is directly stating, confirm that of their products that they're pushing to you, they believe that Nest Credit is connected to these big players, and they're going to put their money into the fact that these big players are going to make money, going to be connected to those Nest vaults, and you as a retail investor can get benefit from that. So that's why we're paying attention. Now, let's get to the rest of this. I know that's a lot, but that's why you have this report. If you become a member, press join. I showed you the QR code is right here. Scan the QR code. Who's giving you this report? But Underdog. The one on the left-hand side gives you this report and also access the other series I've done that are only for members only. And the one on the right-hand side is the real world asset Plume report. That is where the capital is. Capital is money. I'll show you the big companies invested into Plume. I'll show you every month, once a month, this report, because it takes about 30 days for that report to be complete. I did one previously, and now a new one's coming. In February the 1st, you'll see a new Plume report for RWAs. So make sure you're paying attention. Now let's get back to the conversation at hand. So we left off right here, but I want to make sure that I'm showing you everything because I don't want to skip over anything. So let's go back to this portion here. So blockchains, again, this is the Neo Finance market map. Let's talk about what we see. We got Plume, ZK Sync, Polygon, Arbitrum, Avalanche, Solana, Aptos, Ripple, Ethereum, Canton, Stellar. Now, this is not by mistake. Now, some of the people who watch my platform right now, I'm sure you're jumping up and down like, oh my goodness, did you see that? And if you are not in the room or you haven't been following me or you're new to the channel, you don't even know the significance of that. Here's why some people who are seeing this are getting very excited. At the beginning of 2025, I started talking about zero knowledge technologies, and I brought through a series I called the Connected Series, the following projects: ZK Sync, Polygon, Arbitrum, Avalanche, Solana, Aptos. Now, why did I put those at the top? These were also chose January 16th of 2026. So apparently I must have been right over a year before they came out with this conversation about the ones that you need to pay attention to. Underdog was already talking about it. But not only that, what did I share with you in those reports that you can watch on my platform? So watch the Connected Series, become a member, watch this information. Of those, zero knowledge proof technologies were in almost all of these you see here, but that's not the big point. Did you recognize something very interesting? Now, I'm going to share this with you. I'm going to give you a moment as I actually look for this myself because I didn't put the slide in here right away. So I want you to take a look at what I just shared. Now, while I am looking to add this little nugget in here, I want you to remember one key thing that a lot of people overlooked, and that is it's not about what they tell you. It's about what you can see in the patterns. Now, I'm going to give you a couple more seconds to take a look at this, but there was something interesting that I think you probably should know about those particular ones. So let me give you another second as I actually pull this up myself and see if you recognize what I recognize. All right, let me pull up this first one here. Now, to give you a quick hint, I have a series, episode 1, Connected Series. This is a free series. I don't know what else I can do. This is free. Some things aren't free. All things in life aren't free, but this is a great series. This is Crypto Investigations, has Larry Fink over BlackRock, episode 1. I have XRP on here. Let me show it to you so no one can think I'm just making up as I go. I got Mocha Coin. I got Plume Network, episode 1, Underdog Investigation. And there was something particular about that episode that I brought up. I'm going to see if you, for those who know, you know, but there's something particular that I brought up that I think that's important. Tell me if you recognize it. Now, as I pull this up, let me do this now because I have a lot of things I have to look through. I want you to remember that I keep saying I don't want you to focus on just the tree, nor do I want you to focus on just the forest. You got to look at both. Now, what is so interesting to me about this particular thing is that those projects that you're seeing here, and I hope I can bring this up. If not, then I'll just bring it up to you. I'll just tell you what it is. But I really think you should see this for yourselves. Those particular projects that you're seeing here are not random. Those particular projects that you're seeing here are all connected. Now, let me bring up one right now. So I talked about this in my Connected series: BlackRock Build Fund, Aptos, Avalanche, Polygon. You'll notice here as we look at these particular projects that is the same. And the reason that is the same is because did you realize that these projects right here, ZK Sync, Polygon, Arbitrum, Avalanche, Solana, and Aptos, notwithstanding ZK Sync, but it's connected to BlackRock, all of them are products of the BlackRock Build. Now, BlackRock Build is a tokenized asset that gives yield, and it has billions of dollars that BlackRock has created. It is not a coincidence that these all have the underlying connection with zero knowledge technologies. It's not a coincidence that these are all connected to BlackRock, the biggest asset manager in the world. It is not a coincidence that these all have connections to individuals I talked about, like Dragonfly Capital and the Build Fund, that he led the aspects of these, Polygon, Avalanche, and Aptos. He led the funding rounds. That's a whole other conversation. And it is not a coincidence, folks, that Plume Network is there too and connected. Now, let's look at the bottom row. Look at that. Here goes Ripple again. Ethereum, Canton, and Stellar. Didn't we just see Ripple? This is the third time we see Ripple and Plume connected in the same space. We see Canton and Plume connected. And now we see Stellar connected. Now, what's the story of Stellar and Ripple? I know you know. Why is Plume continue to be integrated 1 degree removed or directly associated with these companies, regardless of the category? You still think it's a mistake? How many other projects you see are making these type of connections? Let's go to the final 3 aspects. Now, we just went over this. Let's talk about the Neo Finance Market Map payment infrastructure, Stripe, Visa, MasterCard. Now, right now, I haven't looked too far into Plume's connection to all of these, but I do know that there is a connection between Visa and MasterCard. But at this very point, I have to do some deeper diving into it so I can provide it to you accurately. I don't want to give you information that I know a partial of, but I want to tell you, though, there is a connection between Visa and MasterCard, and I need to find out what that connection is with Stripe. But the important thing is, let's look at the forest. Why does Stripe, Visa, and MasterCard come up in this new financial system? They're a part of the old financial system. They're big players, but it's interesting to me that they show up. Stripe, Visa, MasterCard. I found that interesting. So I think you should pay attention to that too. Now, the last but not least, there's 2 more areas, and then we will finish up with this. FinTech, Neo Finance Market Map. We see Cash App, Robinhood, PayPal, Venmo. So I think the same thing. Now I'm starting to see financial systems like Robinhood, PayPal comes up again, Venmo, and Cash App. Again, I'm asking you a question. Why do they appear? Should we pay attention to them? Is there a potential connection with Plume Network? And if it is, what is that connection? That is important. Robinhood's there, PayPal's there, Venmo and Cash App. Could you imagine real world assets connected through Cash App? I'm going to look into that conversation, but I thought that was important. Now, we are finalizing with the last portion of the NEO map. That took a lot. That should have been a whole conversation by itself, but I'm going to finish up the Plume report after this because I still got a little bit more to go. There was Oracle's, Chainlink, and Redstone. And yes, Chainlink and Redstone has a connection to Plume, and both of them have a partnership. And when I say partnership, let's just bring up the Plume report, what we saw with USD1. And let's bring this up from Plume report number 1. So right here, users, this is Plume, USD1, a yield-bearing product built on World Liberty Finance by Lorenzo Protocol, which we're going to look into on January the 15th. Users can now mint and redeem USD1 directly on Plume using USD1 and USDC with bridging supported by Chainlink CCIP to enable seamless cross-chain network. So this was January the 15th, 2026. We find out about the stablecoins yet again and the cross-platform connection to Plume. And we find that Chainlink is also integrated within that. So now we see that Plume has a connection, and it's not a coincidence, again, that Redstone as well as Chainlink have a connection to Plume. So folks, that was the complete neobank aspect. And I want to make sure that we get this final episode concluded. So I wanted to go through that with you. So this will be time coded for my users as the Underdog members. This is live right now. This is going to be raw but organized. So you have to make sure that you go back through and watch for yourself, take notes. But I try to make it a little bit more convenient for those who want to see this and go back and play these information. So let's go to this next part. Plume engagement quality. So what I did was the engagement quality index is something that I created, which shows a subtle but important shift. Users are responding to what they can do, not what they can imagine with Plume. And that's the difference between narrative phase and operational phase. So I want you to see this because this is something I created for you to see. Utility-driven attention versus speculative attention. Now, between January 12th to the 20th of 2026, Plume engagement quality, narrative signals versus utility signals, it is clear to me. Posts that were about Plume and speculation received low attention, but posts that talked about utility had the utmost engagement. Matter of fact, 75% engagement versus 25% engagement. Some of the posts like USD1 live on Plume on January 15th had great engagement, 42,300 views. It was a live product, executable access, and on-chain functionality. Narrative signals, the New York Stock Exchange tokenized security signals repost on January 18th, 2026. That was a great 27,700 views of that on Plume Network. Institutional signaling, governance context, and market structure awareness. And Plume received a lot of attention. So speculation doesn't do well with Plume. That's why I'm giving you these researchable information. Plume is about utility. So when you hear people say, I don't hear a lot of people talk about Plume. Don't worry about that. Pay attention to where the money rails go. It will be talked about when it blows up. Okay. Now, what else do we see here? We saw this. We saw institutional ready compliance. Plume were posted #1 in RWA network by holders globally. Major institutions onboarded to Plume: Apollo Global, Wisdom Tree Funds. Remember seeing them? And EY News, SEC registered transfer agent approval. Now, here's the things you might have overlooked. Now, they said Apollo Global, Wisdom Tree Funds. You saw that earlier. Wisdom Tree came up in the neo finance aspect, but EY News, Ernest Young, I believe that's the name of EY. They partnered with Polygon. We saw Polygon and Plume together too. They created a zero knowledge technologies, which are 4 different ones. One that we see already used by Plume, and also other ones as well. These zero knowledge technologies is a whole product. So Polygon is a big player in real world assets, and they have zero knowledge technologies for privacy. So they're telling us here, verified that the New York Stock Exchange was a big signal for them. They tell us that Wisdom Tree and RWAs, and they bring up again that EY News, Ernest Young News, and they talk about the New York Exchange and Depository Trust Clearing Corporation signals. This is about institutional rails, and a lot of this stuff might be new to most people, and that's okay. We didn't go to school, a lot of us, for finance, and we might not ever pay attention to it, but now you have to. It's no longer just about people hyping something up, getting listed, and it's going to make you a millionaire. It's now about being strategic, about knowing how much money you have and utilizing it and putting yourself in the right projects. So I want to make sure that you saw that. Now, this is an outlier. So in this report, I want to give you something more. Now, typically reports will be about 30 minutes. These is a little bit longer because I'm going over a lot of information more in detail because I really want people to use this information, and then you'll come back to it when it comes to fruition. You're like, oh man, Underdog taught us about this, and it'll make a lot of sense. But this is a metric I created called outlier metrics worth noting. So outliers are something that strays from the norm. So what did I notice in the data when I evaluated Plume Network? In their post, 49% week over week, there was wallet growth. I've seen 4+ transactions per wallet on average, so it continue to grow in wallets on Plume. 15.5 thousand plus messages routed via chain link. That's huge. They have earned access engagement Saturday, January 20th. There was a promotion that they were holding. 60% more people started engaging, and 2.4 million in restaked Plume in wallet. So in that big token unleash on January the 20th, allocated in those 4 categories were actually the investors. They put back $2.4 million back to the investors. That was beautiful to see to me, because that lets you know that if you're got yourself in Plume and staking products like Nest, you see the money flowing back. So they're paying back the investors, retail investors. So if someone says they're not doing anything for retail investors, look at the price, ask them, how do they control the market? Unless you can convince a company to buy right now while they're looking at wars potential, they're looking at inflation, they're looking at the unsure actions of the Clarity Act being passed, and they're looking at government shutdowns and civil unrest. Why would a company risk investing where they can almost guarantee the market's going to go down? So we got to think more like institutional investors. Do you want to get in while the price is low? These are some of the outliers you see. So we also found this. Plume did this. One overlooked signal this week is engagement quality. So this, again, you won't find this anywhere else. I'm giving you a new signal. Just like technical analysis, I took the data from the post and I put it through an algorithm, and then I compressed it, evaluated, and now I'm giving you a graphic so you can see it. This is the engagement quality. Most attention clustered around live products, executable access, and infrastructure, not speculative narratives, which I've been telling you. There was utility-driven engagement significantly outweighed commentary-driven engagement, reinforcing the shift from hype to function. And I really like that. There is a lot of engagement when you talk about utility with Plume. Now, it might not get a lot of viewers, but the reality is those who view now are going to be ones who benefit from it later, while others will view it later once the hype comes in and people are already paying big bucks. You got in under 2 cents, you're going to win, and they're going to want to be in your position. Now, some of the things you see here, January 12th through 20th, through the timeline of this particular report, we saw infrastructure density, 42,300 people were really engaged. The chain link connection with Plume, the stablecoin yield activity with USD1 signal, 75% of people were really engaged, increased from January 15th to January 20th. There was 66% more people in paying attention to Plume posts. This signals a high increase in engagement and governance and staking composition activity. This was also something that people wanted to see. Uniquely on Saturdays, I noticed a surge of 12.9% increase on Saturdays. So after a long week, people were, and on Saturdays, looking more at Plume Post. Now, I'm not going to have time to go through this, but I want you to know that Animoca Brands did a article, and I talked about Animoca Brands. That is Yatsu and Robbie Young, who are the CEO and the chairman of Animoca Brands. Now, interesting, I showed you here. Let's bring this up. Mocha Coin, which is a product of Animoca Brands, their flagship product, which is a digital identity ownership and also verification, which is a whole nother part of the series I'll be talking about again, but it was in a connected series. They did an article, and they did this article on Chris Young. Now, I'll do a coverage of this article specifically, but I just want to read 2 minutes of this. And this is what they said. Chris Young is a co-founder. They said, regulations central to RWA's development in 2026. And regulation remains the gating factor for global scale. Jurisdictions differ in how they classify and supervise tokenized assets, increasing compliance cost and slowing cross-border adoption. In 2026, we expect more consistent guidance from security regulators and clearer licensing pathways. In 2026, we'll also see the impact of industry sandboxes, standardized issuance flows, and more integrated KYC, know your customer, custody, and trading stacks from regulated providers. These will hide operational complexity and make onboarding and transacting in real-world assets feel more like traditional fintech. Combined with regulator infrastructure collaboration through ongoing pilots, like the work Plume has done in 2025 in the US and Hong Kong, this reduces legal ambiguity and gives institutional actors confidence to scale production developments. Now, I'm going to do a follow-up this weekend on this article specifically because there's a lot of great information. I don't think you should miss it. There's a lot of homework for you to do even after this. But Animoca Brands is a $6 billion company worldwide, globally. They have one out of Japan. They have one in China. And they also have one in the United States. Basically, they are all over the place. Hundreds of companies underneath their portfolio. They're number one in Web3 development. So for them to make an article about Plume Network and have Chris Yin and talk about these real world assets, we got to pay attention. The moral of this story is that we have to understand that this week we learned on Plume that Plume transitioned from infrastructure narrative into operational reality. Yield went live with USD1, access expanded, governance matured, supply entered a new phase, and validated programs, earn mechanisms happen as well. And the conclusion is Plume crossed the threshold, went live, and the access widened, governance matured, and supply entered a new place. So we are at a good place, folks. We're early. There's a lot to get here. Now, folks, I hope that you enjoyed this conversation today. Remember, this is best to be viewed on a big screen. I make visuals. It takes me a long time. I don't have a lot of quantity, but I have a lot of quality. If you want to become a member and get this each week, because you won't get this on the next episode, it's going to be for the members only unless you become a member. And you can simply scan that QR code or go to the description, press join. And the right-hand side, scan that QR code for the real world assets on my second site. Either way it goes, I'll try to put you in position to win. I hope you enjoyed this conversation with me today. And we have finished part 2 of episode 2 for the Plume Weekly Report, January the 12th through the 19th of 2026. Until next time, this has been the Underdog Research Channel, and this has been the Plume Report.
Be the Plume going to start down, need permission, now I stay real with it. Lay one foundation, know it's gon' build, bro, I been biddle with it. Your homeboy check the cash out, smart contracts with a cash out. Everybody want smoke till I turn the dare, show you where the hash at. Spun the block, turns out I been Black Rock. Protocol, treasuries, barns on me, got them padlocked. Been the best out, they can imitate. You the best out, then you integrate. Ask Kondo, who Rambo, drew first blood, boy, I been a great. Everybody, then they start, boy. I'm in orbit. Stellar still, hella stellar though. I like Swift better for the corporates. I'm the enterprise, I tokenize. Hamilton on chain. Zero knowledge, always never improvise. The White House, know my name.